Okay, whole tone scale lesson. Before we get into that, if you don't know who Osnoy is, go check him out. Definitely from all the kind of modern guitar players, probably the one that's had the biggest influence on my playing in the last couple of years. Just an insane improviser and composer. If you're in that kind of intermediate middle trap with guitar, which I think a lot of people are, which is like you're playing a pentatonic stuff, but you're just struggling to get outside of that and play new ideas. The best book on it, in my opinion, by far, is this one by Osnoy, Inside Out Guitar Soloing. The funny thing about guitar, I think, is you need to find someone sometimes who their style resonates with the way that you play to learn new things on the guitar. This isn't the first book or the first article or the first YouTube video or whatever I've watched about the altered scale or the whole tone scale or diminished scale or whatever. But sometimes if somebody's playing isn't really the way that you play, or you don't even like their tone, for example, sometimes stuff just doesn't go in. It's a bit like life, I suppose. 5 different people can tell you the same thing and you're like, whatever. And then the sixth person comes along and tells you exactly the same thing again, but whatever, the way they said it just resonates with you and you go, okay, I get it now. So yeah, if you're in that kind of intermediate stage and you're struggling to get any further, this, in my opinion, is the best book on how to do it. Cool tone. It's more like bluesy fusion orientated. I think some of the problem for me with a lot of the more advanced harmony stuff in the guitars, it can all be quite jazz focused. I like jazz, but I'm not really a jazz guy. Whereas this is definitely more in like the blues, fusion, rock camp. It's got some really, really cool stuff in it. It's all well explained, good audio files and everything. So whole tone scale, as it says on the tin, just made up of whole tones. So if you want to think about it on the guitar, every note is 2 frets apart. So by that metric, you can only have 2 whole tone scales. So some people will do everything from C, thinking about C major. Given that E is the lowest note on the guitar, I would say the 2 whole tone scales are E and F. So E would be, and then F. If you repeat that fret up and go from F sharp, you've just started the E whole tone scale again, but from F sharp, okay. So the other way we can think about that is if we're soloing, is that we would have the whole tone scale from the root note. So on the track in the beginning, it's over E7, so E7 vamp. So you'd have an E whole tone scale over E. And then the way I would think about it is, you could think, okay, I could also play F whole tone over E, which would be fine. I personally find that really difficult to think about things that are adjacent on the guitar. I don't know why. It must be just the way my brain works. So you'll get this with the altered scale a lot. People will say, well, E altered is F melodic minor. So if you just play F melodic minor over E and then resolve it back to E, I just find that really difficult to think about. If I'm playing if I'm playing E altered, I just think about everything in relation to E. I think about all the intervals in relation to E, rather than having to think about something else and then resolve it back to whatever you're playing over. So I find it much easier to think about doing it as a 5-1. So the F whole tone scale would also contain B. So when we're vamping over a single chord, to make it more interesting, you can imply a 5-1 transition, which isn't actually there. You can imply it over. So we could go B whole tone over E, or B whole tone resolving it back to E in one way or the other. So the interesting thing about the whole tone scale is if you look at E whole tone over an E7, we've got E, F sharp, G sharp, that B flat or A sharp, whatever you want to call it, C, D and E. So you've only actually got 2 outside notes. So the E would be inside, that's the root note. The F sharp's a major second. The G sharp, that's the major third of the G7. You've got the D, which is the flat 7, and then back to the root. So it's only the flat 5 and the flat 6. But it still has a very odd sound to it. And I just think It's just that your ear is so unused to hearing a scale that's all symmetrical like that, even though it's not really as outside as you would think. It still has a very strange sound. If you think about the whole tone scale of the 5, that gives you a very odd sound. So you would end up with, so if we're playing B whole tone over E, you'd end up with the 4th, 5th, 5th, 6th, major 7, flat 9, flat 3, flat 4th, and back to 5. So you've got no root note on it, and you've got the 2 semitones either side of the root notes, and the major 7th and the flat 9. That's a really unusual sound, which needs resolving in a nice way to get back to what you were playing over. So it takes a little while to get used to it, because it's a very odd sound to begin with. The key with all this stuff, not just whole tone scale, any kind of outside licks, any alter scale licks, diminished scale licks, it's about the resolution. And I think it's either in this book or it's in another interview that I saw Osnoy give. He's basically saying you can basically play anything as long as the resolution is good enough. When I first heard that, I was like, well, that can't be true. You can't just play whatever. You kind of can if you do it in the right place and in the right way, and it fits with the rest of what you're playing, and you get the resolution right. You can almost play anything. The other key is making it rhythmically interesting. If you're just playing, it's not going to sound great. If you can put some interesting syncopated rhythms and stuff against it, it's just more interesting to the ear, and you're not only hearing the outside notes in the phrase. But it takes a while. Like I said in my other video, it's not really anything to do with technique. It's getting your ear used to what these intervals sound like, and then being able to think about how to get from where you are back to where you want to resolve to. That is a great thing about the pentatonic scale, is there aren't really any wrong notes in it. The other notes have been taken out for a reason, so you don't have to think sometimes about what you're doing. You can just kind of go on autopilot and you'll end up back somewhere nice. Anyway, with this stuff, you've got to think about where you are on the neck and what you're doing and where you're going to a little bit more, and I think that is the hard thing. I think playing guitar fast has not really got anything to do with fast technique. It's being able to think quickly, not being able to play quickly. It's about being able to think quickly. So there's a couple of licks in that video. The first thing to say is, on these videos that I'm doing, I'm kind of overusing what I'm talking about. So I'm playing more outside stuff than I would in an actual solo. If you do it too much, it's going to sound a bit strange and get a bit repetitive, but to make a point and to show you what I'm talking about, I'm using it probably more than I would on a real gig or on a real track or whatever. So because the whole tone scale is just made up of whole tones and is symmetrical, you're going to get the same intervals off every note in the scale, which can be used to make some cool licks just in itself. And there's generally, when you notice little things like that in a scale, is one of the points where I'd recommend starting your ideas, because they're quite simple to work out. So if we think about the whole tone scale, you're going to have, let's say, B whole tone. You're going to have a major third off every note. You're going to have a tritone off every note. You have a flat 6 off every note. And a flat 7. So you can just fiddle about with that and make little ascending and descending licks. I think Osnoy plays this one lick in a few different variations, which is kind of something like, or something like that. You've heard him play a few different variations of it, which are basically just moving up and down the whole tone scale, or the second half of the altered scale in triads or other intervals. So if you have a look at this first lick, I think I played this slightly differently on the video, but it's essentially the same. You can work it out from the tab. So all we're doing here is we've extended that further and actually doing a full triad. So every note in the whole tone scale is going to have an augmented triad in it. So from all I'm really doing here is just going E, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, augmented triad. and then resolving it to E. So again, it's about thinking, where's that strong downbeat coming and where do I need to resolve it to? And you can extend that on the bottom string as well. Something like that. So that was an E whole tone lick, the first one. This is a B whole tone lick. So I played this up an octave up on the video, but we'll just do it at the bottom of the fretboard. It's the same thing. There's kind of variation of that lick I told you about earlier, the descending tritone lick, resolving it back to the E. Oh. I leave all the mistakes in this channel just because I can't be bothered to take them out. Okay, so the third one, this is an E whole tone lick using the kind of A caged shape. So if you think about it, going back to the beginning, so we only have two whole tone scales, so the E whole tone scale and the F whole tone scale. If you wanted to play that as a 5-1, so B to E, you can just move it up a fret. So that would become. You still need to resolve it back to the E. So it's one of those things you just got to mess around with it. It's a very strange sound, and it takes a while just to get. Some of the fingerings are quite odd as well, because it's unlike anything else you would play on the guitar where all the intervals are the same. So it gives you some weird fingerings to figure out to begin with. But it's a really, really cool sound once you get used to it. So check it out. Check out this book. Check out Osnoy. And on a completely unrelated subject. Check out this pedal as well. This is a Browne Carbon X, which is basically Browne amplification version of the King of Tone. This is the best sounding overdrive out there at the moment. If you want something that has like a distinct sound to it, like a tube scream or whatever, that's not really the thing for you. But for natural sounding overdrive pedals, this just sounds so good. So much clarity in it. So many pedals these days seem to have that kind of blanket over the amp sound as soon as you turn them on, which I hate. This doesn't. You can get it as just half of it as well, just the normal carbon version. I've never played a real King of Tone, probably won't either, but I can't imagine waiting 5 years to get one when you can just get one of these. So check it out.